Boy, the African American voice in classical music, and I do want to welcome you to this exciting installment of the Opera Diva series. Today we will be joined by legendary Metropolitan Opera soprano Martina Arroyo. We are so happy to have Ms. Arroyo here to discuss her initiative, Prelude to Performance. At this time, I would like to play for your listening pleasure Ms. Arroyo singing the Ritorno Vincitor. Good morning, Ms. Arroyo. Good morning. Listeners, we're having a technical difficulty, but we will get it together here. Again, we are going to make this interview happen here. Just be patient. Again, I'm going to play a little music while we're making the connection. Good morning, Ms. Arroyo. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Ms. Arroyo. Hello, good morning, Ms. Arroyo. We are really having technical difficulties this morning. callers, listeners, I'm so sorry. I guess this is going to be one of these days on the Opera Diva series. My broadcasts have a mind of its own. Let's see, can we try to get Miss Arroyo again? We're going to get Miss Arroyo because she has something to say. This is the joy of live radio. Let's try this again.
Hello.
Good morning, Miss Arroyo. Good morning.
Good morning, and please call me Martina.
Thank you so much, Martina. Oh my God, this is Patrick DeBucor. I'm so sorry we've had all these technical difficulties, but you are finally on the line. Thank you so much for being a part of the...
Well, they say this is the era of technology, but sometimes we have to go back to the old-fashioned way.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to give you the full accolade you deserve, but I'm sure that we're going to be able to get right down to the point. Tell me about your initiative, Prelude to Performance, and what's going on there in New York City.
Well, we have a program each summer where we present 2 operas double cast with orchestra costumes and as close as you can get to a professional performance with a faculty actually of 21 of coaches, of the conductors, of course, and stage directors. The idea being to work on a character, but not, of course, they must know how to sing the part first and foremost, but we deal mainly with the character, the building of the character, with putting that skin on of the other person, which is a unique viewpoint in that many of the young people who are really very fine singers still don't deal with the words and the building of that character enough before going on to into the professional world. And so we thought some years ago that it would be nice to have a program that addressed that, especially since I felt as I was coming along that I learned these things, but it took years of performances and people like Lotfi Mansouri and Tito Capobianco and Franco Enrico to drill into the importance, the very, very much importance, the importance of the word, of the expression.
Now, tell me about some of the artists that will be coming to work with the students to do master classes during the sessions.
Well, we have master classes each year, and we've had people like Stephanie Blythe, and in fact, we've even had people from the stage. The point being that these are people who are also interested in building the character. Not just, we don't have master classes about singing. We had Anthony Latura of Boardwalk Empire to talk about the character actor. You know how much is involved with building a character in a short period of time. We have Elizabeth Futral this year. We also have wonderful people like Ken Benson, who talks not only about the auditioning process, but also about business, anything that the young people want to ask that very often you don't get in a school course. Does that mean you don't like it?
No. I said as in good, because as you mentioned, I mean that those kind of experiences you just can't trade for the world. Now you had talked a little bit when you said when you first initially founded the program that it was kind of inspired by some of your own experiences. Could you maybe talk a little bit deeper about your inspiration to provide such a program in lieu of some of the experiences that you had as a singer?
Well, as a very young professional, I had gone to the opera workshop of Hunter College. I had attended that workshop for a few years, and there, of course, we did deal with the staging, but the in-depth work with the language, with the expression, was not as addressed the same way, because first of all, there was a time element, and there was a course in a university, and as I went into the profession, many people liked my voice and gave me contracts because of the voice. But I found doing parts like Butterfly and Tosca, any part, to be perfectly honest, if you don't know who that person is, if you don't begin to believe what she's going through and what she's going through emotionally, you're only getting half of the story just because the voice might be acceptable. On the other hand, I've seen performances of people that made me believe them, and their voices weren't as wonderful as Miss So-and-so. So I found that I began becoming more involved with the words. And as I said, when you have stage directors that deal with that themselves, you find yourself growing and growing in that direction. And of course, the singing always remains important, but you try to bring them together so that you just don't sound beautiful, but you have colors in your voice. You're saying something. And that with me grew little by little over the years. Hopefully, got to a decent point. But I think that if the young people, even right at the beginning, started realizing that you can say a word 15 different ways depending on why you're saying it, who you are, what kind of person you are, what character you are. It'll always be. It'll involve the person who's listening.
Tell me about the diversity or the variety of students that you see come through your program.
Well, we're extremely lucky. We have had this year alone more than 400 applicants, and we have everything. Everybody who can sing, who wants to learn this sort of thing is welcome. One year, the very first year, we didn't realize we weren't thinking about diversity. We were just thinking about getting the program started, and it turned out we had 11 Asian members, 11 black, and 11 white. And we didn't know this was not worked on. That was an accident. But when we started applying for funds from the various organizations, that was one of the questions. And it made us aware each year that, we had to be, we want to be inclusive, but that was not an issue because all of the young people came. And I think that young people are just wonderful. They don't look at each other as at least in our field, let's say, they don't look at each other as the color, but they hang on to each other to learn to have careers because they want a career first and foremost. And the work that's done together is incredible. Even when you think in terms of cultures being different, and people have to learn perhaps to change an attitude because you come from a different culture. It's amazing how as soon as you're thrown in together and you all want to make this opera work, you do it together and with great love.
Right. It's teamwork. You have to do it together. Now, speaking of the young people coming to this program, if a young artist or a budding professional wants to become a part of this intensive program, what are some of the basic criteria?
Well, not only must they have a voice, they have to be at a certain level technically because our program is 6 weeks from 10 in the morning until 6, and very often in the evening, not often, but evening rehearsals with chorus, staging, it depends on but it's with orchestra whenever they're called. So you can't have someone who doesn't yet have some groundwork in his technique. You can't just throw a young voice to the wolves. So we do require that besides the voice being a good one, that there be a certain amount of number of years of study. And we often have the teachers, because we don't approach the technique at all. We don't talk about how to sing. And many of the teachers come into the rehearsals, listen to what their students are doing, or will call and say, is this happening? Or if it's really necessary and I have to call one and say, look, she's singing off pitch all the time. Would you address it, please? Or do you think, it can be addressed? So that there's a camaraderie also with the teacher, without the teacher being a teacher in the program. And those young people work quite hard. They have classes, wonderful classes in the morning. They work stagecraft. They work libretto, where they just speak the parts, where they as prose or as theater, without thinking of the rhythms and the pitches. They have role class with me, where they discuss the character before page one, before we even see them. Who were they like? What were they like? Where are they from? What was the historical background? Who wrote the original play or story? What have you read the original play or story? So there's a lot of work involved. It's not just staging in the afternoon 4 hours and then putting on a performance. And they're coached individually. They're coached in groups.
Now,
is that enough? You sound as though you wanted to hear more.
I want you to talk. After all this hardship we went through to get you on the line, I just want you to talk until you can't talk anymore. I'm just so thrilled.
Never give a soprano that entree. We can talk for years. And say little, but talk.
Speaking of talking, I remember when I had the pleasure of meeting you 2 years ago. I met you at the NEA Opera Honors at the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
At the reception, and I was speaking so quickly, And I was speaking so quickly, and the first thing you said was, oh, you must be a singer to say all that on one breath.
Oh, my Lord.
Tell me about the NEA Opera Honors and what that meant to you that night to receive that honor.
You know, it's so hard to express what was going on inside that night. Besides, there's nobody in the world who would not admit this as being as one of the greatest honors you can receive in your own profession. And I was also, my husband was sick and could not accompany me, uh, and and was in the hospital, and so it was a mixed, wonderful thing, being with David Dichiera, and Eve Quella, and meeting Philip Glass for the first time and falling totally in love with him. It was just a joyous 2 days, and it would happen because the NEA had given this incredible honor, and it was, you want to say, one of the very top moments of your life, and it is. But I have to tell you that when you're in this profession, every time something goes well, you think, this is a top moment. Well, that was certainly one of the pinnacles, without a doubt. And I only wish that every young singer strives for getting their NEA award sometime in their thoughts. Aim for it.
Well, I certainly do want to extend my condolences to you on the loss of your husband. I remember during that time we were trying to go back and forth, trying to arrange this talk. So I'm just so glad that this day is happening. I'm so honored. Now, just to go, since we're talking about opera, just to pay it forward to today, you've certainly had a wonderful career, and I do want to get an opportunity to give you your full introduction, which these technical difficulties kind of messed up. But I do want to just go ahead and speak forward. I mean, the world of opera is so much different today in some aspects. What are some problems that you perhaps see in the opera world today that did not exist perhaps during your tenure of singing?
Well, so one of the things that I find really important to discuss is that we do have many companies that either change the time period or the dress they don't change the story necessarily, but it seems like the story has changed when you see it. And this is all well and good when you have a comparison and when the conflict remains the same. But what sometimes bothers me is when the young people who are going out to sing these parts don't know the traditional way of doing it, don't know what the composer and the librettist intended, so that they can say, okay, I can be a grasshopper in this production, but I know that Butterfly was originally a woman, who went through this suffering, and this new version might be someone's wonderful fantasy, and it might be gorgeous to look at and beautiful to hear, but the original character, whoever she is or he is, was meant to be, according to Beaumarchais and Mozart, was supposed to be this way. And I can make a comparison and then from there move on. When sometimes the young people go into productions and they're only told that this is the way to do it, and they have nothing to compare it to, it distorts what the opera is really about. It distorts it in your own mind because you don't compare it to anything. This becomes your truth. Does that make any sense?
Understand it. It does, because I just saw a recent production, and I won't call the production, I won't call the company, but I saw that very thing. And then I wonder, how does a singer address that if you have a professional singer who perhaps has never sung the original role in, say, Così fan tutte, but then they do a contemporary version of the opera without having done a traditional setting? I just wonder how that goes as well.
Well, when the conflict remains the same, I've done Valerie Masqueda in the Civil War, which was kind of funny, but nevertheless, the conflict remained the same, and so we were able to keep the basis of the characters true to the text. But when sometimes you go to a performance and they're performing one way, saying something else, had no relationship to either the author or the composer, you wonder how they're developing it. They're developing the character from another angle, and so how true to the text can they be, and how true a representation does the audience get? It's one thing to imagine them riding around in helicopters, but it's hard to imagine that if it's before Christ. Not that there are many operas that take place from BC. Uh, and I'm not trying to say that these should not happen. I'm trying to say that what worries me is that when the young people are not given the basis and, and have not yet become acquainted with how the composer and the librettist and how history or the play or whatever it is how it was intended, that they can't approach the character truthfully.
That is a very good point. Now I want to kind of go back to prelude to performance, because I think that's a wonderful initiative that you're doing to really train up singers and give them this opportunity. Now, when the singers come, I want to go back to that. When the singers come to your program, do you handpick each singer, or is there a panel, a selection process?
Well, we're a panel. First of all, Mark Rucker, the baritone, very wonderful baritone, is our administrative. Yes, is our administrative director. Willie Waters, who's conducted all over and was the head of the Hartford Opera, is our musical director. We always have guests. Like now, we have Stephen White and as a conductor, and we have our stage directors this year, Kay Castaldo and Matthew Lotta. These are people that have been in the profession, have done their work all over the United States and sometimes as well as in Europe, and they might have an input by coming to the auditions, but the final decisions are made by Mark, Willie, and I, and whichever person. If it's a stage director who's come to the auditions and who's heard the others, we make the decision, the final decision. Mm-hmm. And we do that carefully. We really don't. It's not haphazard. We listen to the people. We then take tapes. We go back. Then the issue is to have the voices sing together that work well together. If we're doing Così fan tutte, and to have an ensemble that will also sing the Mozart well together as well as get the characters. We couldn't have a soprano who sounds like a Brunhilde and a Dorabella who sounds like a Rossini, a mezzo. There has to be a balance worked out, and sometimes that's not easy, but we have to do it. Now, did I explain myself properly there?
You did, and I'm just still in awe of all the information that you're giving. Now, when you're hearing all of these different singers, I just want to go back to you have the opportunity to hear singers from all over, and I know you have a panel, but when I'm talking to you, Martina, and you've had so many experiences and have heard so many singers. When you hear a young budding singer that comes to your program, or even if you just hear them sing perhaps in your living room, what are some of the things that really stand out that perhaps would separate a singer from being just a good singer, or to the potential of being a great singer?
Well, singing is subjective. One person likes one voice, and another person likes another voice. You go by what you feel when you hear the voice. Does it inspire you? Do you enjoy hearing it? When I listen to a voice, I'm not first looking for what's wrong with the voice. I want to hear, what does the voice say to me. We have the program so that if the voice isn't saying what it should be saying as that character, we work with that, with exactly that. But if the voice has something to say, and is technically in decent condition, and I always use these words because I'm not saying anybody's perfect. We all have a way to go, and that's throughout your lifetime. But we also have heard young people that we thought weren't ready to sing a whole performance yet, or with orchestra, the complete performance, and we've asked them to be auditors so that they could do all of the work, like learning the character, learning the language, discussing the character, but they don't have the responsibility of doing the performance, because that would be a little bit too much, perhaps. We keep them as auditors, and we follow their careers. And sometimes you'll hear somebody we think is a wonderful voice, but not for this part, and we stay in touch so that if next year we're doing something, we will be doing Tales of Hoffmann, we can perhaps use that person then. So you just don't hear a voice, at least we don't just hear and put it away. We hear and make notes and remember, hopefully. But of course, remember, we're getting old. Sometimes we forget a little.
It sounds like your program has flexibility, and you're not just out here just to tear somebody down. You're really trying to cultivate and build and see what you can bring out as far as the best in the singer. So that's something I really like. And generally, I give a big introduction, and these technical difficulties kind of took away from that. So I do want to let listeners know who may be unfamiliar with opera or classical music. I just want to let you know a little bit further exactly who I'm talking to. We're speaking to none other than Martina Arroyo, who is definitely recognized as one of the preeminent lirico-spinto sopranos of our time. And as she's won so many accolades and things of that nature, both as a performer and as a teacher. And we're just so honored to have her here. This conversation has taken 2 years to have, so even with the technical difficulties and the glitches, I'm glad that you all are listening. And I want to thank Martina for being on the line with us. And I want her to continue since we're talking about opera. And with that being said, what first gave you the opera bug? What really stirred up in something in you that said, I want to be an opera singer?
Well, it didn't happen. It happened a little backwards. I was attending Hunter College High School. That's what used to be the private high school of Hunter College, and there, the opera workshop of the college used to meet in our auditorium, and we would stand outside, and myself and a couple of other girlfriends who were a little bold, and we'd imitate the singers, and we were one day caught. And as a punishment, they dragged us in to sing for the director, who was Joseph Tornau, who had directed at the Wiener Staatsoper. And he made us sing, and we were sure that we were going to be clobbered. And instead, he came over and said to me, "What do you want to be? What do you want to do with your voice?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a school teacher." And because, as I tell this story all the time, growing up in Harlem 25 years ago, add a few, you had Dr. Lawyer, Indian Chief. You didn't think in terms of astronaut and opera singer. So I went he said, "Well, if you want to come into the workshop and sit in." And I went in. He sent me to my first voice teacher, Marinko Gurevich. And it started like that. It wasn't really that I realized that I wanted to be an opera singer early on. It was the first sort of fun with always wanting to be a teacher. And my parents said, "Okay, but you have to have a degree that'll mean a secure life." And so I said, "Okay, I'll go in for the teaching." And I did get my degree in Romance languages, not in music, which I'm sorry in a way, but things turned out all right anyway. And it started like that. And little by little, the opera classes became more important to me than anything else. And I think a few years later, I said, "This is what I want to do." But it didn't start out by my saying, "Ooh, I want to be an opera singer."
That is fascinating that your degree is not in music.
No, not at all. And this is only to say, because you don't necessarily have a degree in music, it's of course take as many courses, of course learn to sight sing, of course learn about orchestra, of course do those things that I had to do later and little by little as we went along. Of course, that's all important, but it's not the only way. If you have a talent and somebody encourages you and you are helped, also financially, it's an expensive profession.
It is. It really is.
And so many young people work as well as take lessons, go to school and work. It's not easy.
It's certainly not. And I try to tell people all the time, sometimes you have to go out here and work and get a job and a part-time job so you can really fund what you really want to do. Is if you want to be an opera singer, you have to buy music books and everything else.
Yeah.
So that is a wonderful takeaway. Now, it was funny, I was happening to look over the programs of the foundation for Prelude to Performance this summer, and I happened to just say Così fan tutte off the top of my head, not realizing that was one of the operas that you all will be performing. Could you start and maybe discuss the plans for Verdi's Falstaff and the performance of Così fan tutte with Prelude?
Yes, I did mention that we are doing Falstaff, which is not an easy opera to prepare with young people, because you need these mature characters, and Verdi is Verdi. You have to be able to sing Verdi, and we work with young singers, so we're very careful about who we choose. And when I say we, I have to keep saying we, because you make it sound a little bit like Prelude is all Martina. It's not. It has a lot to do with the other people that I've mentioned that give of themselves wholeheartedly, and so it's a we situation always at Prelude.
Wonderful.
And those are the two operas. They're different. We do a Mozart and another opera with the idea being that we keep the recitative in our program. So often in the schools, there's no time to, well, very little recitative is addressed, and that's extremely important to know how to sing it, to know the languages. Again, it's language, and so we've made it an important part of our program.
That is certainly wonderful. Now, just as a final takeaway, to as we round the interview, I certainly want to thank you for discussing the program. What would you say beyond prelude after the student has received this phenomenal training and those type of things? What would be maybe the final takeaway that you may give to this person who aspires to go on to make a living as an opera singer?
Because you have to keep working. You have to keep working. You're not going to get it all in prelude by any means. It's not a 6 weeks that says now you're ready for life. But what I'm hoping is that 6 weeks that says now I'm able to help myself prepare a role. Now I know how to approach a role. Now I know where I go to make these languages, clarify these languages, the idioms of the language, and the intention of the history. There's so much you're working with at once that what they learn, I'm hoping, is to then now I'm not afraid to go into a new opera and go elsewhere and do other things because I've learned how to build. That's what we want, and also we know that they can't stay in a prelude situation. They have to get out there and mix in eventually with the professionals, but they don't walk on stage as an empty vessel. They walk on stage as half full, and that's very important. So I hope if prelude does anything, it helps them learn how to fill that glass a little bit.
It sounds like it's well on its way. It sounds like you really have a wonderful team, and I'm just very impressed and excited about that spirit of teamwork. We talked about how people can be involved as far as being participants in the program, but do you welcome volunteers? And if there's an opportunity that people in the music community can help, what can we do to help your foundation and the many people who work to foster this activity?
Oh, what a wonderful question, Patrick. First of all, for those that are in this area, who come into this area to come to the performances, that's extremely important because there's nothing like walking on stage to an empty house. You want to sing to people. But indeed, what you said, volunteering, because it's a very, very expensive type of program to have to contribute financially, and I'm making it third, but in a way it's first because we don't charge a tuition to come into this program. This program is tuition free, so we have to raise the entire budget plus in order to have it, and only with an incredible board and with incredible help from organizations from the NEA to NISCA to private organizations that have kept us going. And even with all of that, we need more. So sometimes it's someone will send in $100 or whatever it is, and we are very grateful. It adds on to the possibility of another hour of work. And so if you go on our website, there are dates, there are the programs, there's a means of contributing financially, and if anybody wants to contact about working with us in the program, if there's a singer who wants to sing for us, the information should be there. I don't know how to open a computer, but I'm told it's there. I'm still working on the telephone.
I do want to bring all that to the listeners' attention. I certainly want everyone who's listening and the sound of my voice to certainly rally behind the Martina Arroyo Foundation. As Ms. Arroyo did mention to everyone, it's certainly a team effort. She has so many wonderful people. Two of my friends who I love dearly, Mark and Sadie Rucker.
Aren't they wonderful?
Yes, they are. And certainly Stephen White and many others who are working to train these young singers and give them the tools they need. I'm going to encourage you to go to www.martinaarroyofdn.org, and that will take you to the website where you can find the information on the performances of the Verdi and also the Mozart opera. So beginning on July the 13th and July the 15th is the performance of the Verdi Falstaff. and then July
13th is the 14th is fall staff as well. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, did you get it right? I think you got it. But the 15th we have both performances.
Oh, okay.
We have an afternoon and evening on the 15th.
Okay, but if you go on the website, all of those performances are in detail. And as she mentioned, we don't want the wonderful artists to come out to an empty house. We want them to come out to a full house. And so I'm depending on you, and I'm going to do whatever I can do to help to promote the performances. You did tell me call you Martina.
Martina,
I am so sorry that the interview got off to a rocky start, but as you mentioned, technology can be a blessing and a curse. So I want to thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't say it can be a curse. I just said I didn't know much about it.
No, it's
the way to go today.
I'm saying that it's a curse because I'm so up on it, and then for the opportunity for me to give you the introduction you deserve, Count Falter. But I want to thank you so much. Is there anything final that you want to remind the listeners about Prelude?
Well, we have wonderful, wonderful young artists in this program. And if you do come to the program, not only come and say hello to them, but come and say hello to me. We'd like to build our audiences and stay in contact with you. Do just support us. That's all I can say, because these are very worthy young talents. And without you, we might not have some careers going. But with you, we can do it. We can certainly lead that path to great successes for them.
Martina, thank you so much for joining this installment of the Opera Diva series. I want to thank you so much for your patience, and I hope that something is gleaned out of this broadcast that somebody might hear and write a check or use a credit card, come to the performance, and really support the work that you all are doing. I can't say enough about the work that you and your team are doing to bring opera to everyone. And I just personally want to thank you and everyone for that.
Well, you shouldn't be only thanking us. We thank you for caring enough to have a program like this, for caring enough to following through over, as you said, it's been over a year, but we appreciate knowing that you're out there. So you keep going, and you keep working as you are, and we'll see each other again.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Same to you. Take care. Bye now.